Story 1. Arthur Morgan solemnly tells his dying horse, "Thank you," before he dies. Story 2. First one that hit me hard was John Marston's death in Red Dead Redemption. I did not think it was going to end that way after everything we had to go through. Arthur Morgan's death was expected. It was sad, but we knew it would happen as soon as he passed out in the streets of St. Denis. John Marston's death, however, came out of the blue. Story 3. Joel's daughter is shot within the first 10 minutes of the game. Story 4. The end of Stray, when the last human fades away and the little cat tries to cuddle him. Story 5. At the end of Shadow of the Colossus, during the credits, the main character, now possessed by a demonic god, is slowly drawn into a shrine. What makes it sad is that the player still controls the character and can resist, but there is no way to prevent it. This occurs immediately after it becomes clear that the protagonist has been tricked. Story 6. I do not know about the saddest of all time, but the final duel in Ghost of Tsushima was pretty up there for me. Story 7. Karlaka's breakdown after the Gortash fight in Baldur's Gate 3 really got me. Story 8. For me, it was Halo Reach's final mission. The first time I played it and saw the first helmet crack, my heart dropped. I knew it was coming, and I started tearing up. Story 9. In Spiritfarer, when you really find out what is happening, I cried for a minute. Story 10. Arthur's last ride in Red Dead Redemption 2 and the final scene of Final Fantasy X come to mind. Both killed me. Story 11. Karlak burning up on the docks is certainly pretty high. Story 12. I remember being very young and sad when Sora said goodbye to Kairi at the end of Kingdom Hearts I. He told her he would find her as they drifted apart while the slower song Simple and Clean began. I was 8 or 9 years old and felt very emotional. I laugh now at how affected I was. Story 13. When Sony shut down the servers for Everybody's Golf on the PlayStation Vita, the few remaining players gathered in the hub to say goodbye. For me, that was the saddest I've felt about a game. Story 14. The Twilight Princess shatters the only portal to her dimension, and Link can never see her again. Story 15. When a game of Expert Minesweeper comes down to a 50-50 choice and you guess wrong. Story 16. Dom and Maria in Gears of War 2. For a hyper-masculine, hopped-up, adrenaline-fueled, kind of ridiculous series, don't come for me. I love it. That scene blew me away as a kid. Story 17. Every part of that dragon, cancer, and the bath in what remains of Edith Finch. Story 18. One of the audio logs hidden away in Horizon Zero Dawn. From Roshana Giliev to Sergeant Giliev. Subject, please reply. Status rejected. Ames, I don't even know if you're alive anymore. The messages I get from you say they are from you, but they do not sound genuine. They sound recycled, phrases put together. You never say anything about the news I pass on. The containment zone, the rebreathers, the rioting, One Earth. What happened in the Dallas bubble, Ames, that wasn't the robots. They will not even give me a straight answer when I demand to know if you are still alive. They just say if your messages keep coming, then you are still operational. It's not fair, Ames. It's not fair that you will not be with me when the lights go out. I love you. Story 19. For me, the opening of The Last of Us, Joel losing Sarah, has upset me more than anything else I have played. It was her scared, desperate whimpers that did it for me. Story 20. Final Fantasy 15 has the final campfire scene, and then, after the fight, it starts replaying the opening scene again. It breaks my heart just thinking about it. Story 21. In the original Life is Strange, when you accidentally go back in time years and are able to stop Chloe's father from dying, the new sequence of events causes her to become so horribly injured that it destroys her and her family's lives. She tries to convince you to pull the plug and let her go peacefully. When I did, I just sat and stared at the screen for 5 minutes. Story 22. Mordin Solis's sacrifice on Tachanka in Mass Effect 3. The death of Jackie Wells in Cyberpunk 2077. Story 23. It does not remain sad for long, but Geralt discovering Ciri's lifeless body in the mists in The Witcher 3 made me deeply emotional. The motion capture, the facial animation when he turns her body over and sees that she is dead, and the way he recoils, his preternatural composure finally gone as his worst nightmares come to pass, are outstanding. The music is incredible. She comes back to life immediately, and the sad tears become happy tears. Story 24. For me, it is always like this. From Silent Hill 2. It is haunting, and I would not spoil the context for anyone who has never played it. Story 25. Either ending of Expedition 33 after the final duel. Especially Verso's scene if you chose Mael. The voice acting as he begs to die is unbelievably gutting. Story 26. The Walking Dead rubs salt in the wound when Clementine loses Lee, and then discovers her parents are walkers. Story 27. Ellie and Joel's last conversation outside his cabin in Part 2. Story 28. Henry having to kill Sam and then himself in the original The Last of Us was heartbreaking. There are many sad moments in the game, but this was the first time I ever cried during a scene. Story 29. I always thought the ending of BioShock Infinite was so insane. Wow. Story 30. Lucas remembered his brother's smell at the end of Mother 3. Story 31. Dom finds Maria or his sacrifice in the subsequent game. Story 32. I do not forgive Odin for what he did in God of War Ragnarok. Hand me the axe, Kratos. Story 33. For me, it is Asriel's conversation with Frisk at the end of the Pacifist Run. Story 34. Cyberpunk 2077. The ending where you agree to let them upload your consciousness onto an engram. The look of resignation on V's face really got to me. Story 35. Arthur's death scene in Red Dead Redemption 2 was the first time a game ever made me cry. Story 36. In Ghost of Tsushima, your horse saves you from an enemy mansion and then dies after taking nearly 10 arrows. I teared up. Story 37. Karlaka's breakdown after you kill Gortash. You spend the entire game with this beautiful, happy-go-lucky golden retriever of a barbarian at your side. You work to keep her out of the hells. You help her track down the man who sold her to Zariel, forcing her to serve for 10 years in the Blood War, and you help turn him into a heap of goo on the floor. It does not solve anything. She is still going to die, and she knows it. Story 38. Lisa realizing she was a monster and essentially dead the whole time in Silent Hill was devastating. I was going to say Angela from Silent Hill 2 in general, but the scene where Lisa begs us to stay with her and hold her because she is so scared, followed by her changing right before our eyes in the somber, heartbreaking music, made me tear up and take a break for a second. She was a sweet and wonderful person who, to this day, I wish I could have saved. Story 39. It's the entirety of that dragon, Cancer. Nothing else comes close. The game's designer recorded themselves and their son as they tried to get him to take his cancer medicine. Story 40. Hey Chloe, this is Max. I wanted to leave you one more message because I know this is the worst time for me to go. I thought if you heard my voice it could be a little like I was there. I don't know, maybe this was a dumb idea. I would give anything to be there with you now. It's so hard to say what I'm thinking. If I could just see you. We will get good at it, great at it. We'll write and talk all the time, and then you'll come and visit and it will be like I never left. I mean it. You don't have to worry about anything changing. You're dealing with so much already. You don't deserve any of this. Chloe, listen. Even if we are moving for good, we're always together. Okay. Even when we're apart, we're still Max and Chloe. I will always love you. Goodbye. I bawled my eyes out at the end of Farewell, especially since it is the last time we will ever see Chloe in a Life is Strange game. That made it hurt worse. Story 41. The ending of Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, is the only one that makes me cry. Story 42, Brothers. A Tale of Two Sons. The scene just after the climax when you are given control back. It is a moment that hinges on the unique gameplay mechanics you have spent the entire game learning, and it is absolutely heart-wrenching. Story 43. All these posts are new. I'm going to choose the scene in Homeworld 1 where they return from their hyperspace test and discover the planet has been destroyed, set to Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings. Story 44. So many options for me. Kate's second death in Destiny 2, Egil's death in Xenoblade Chronicles, The moment in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 where Pyra and Mithra confess to Rex that they wanted to see the architect because they wanted to die, and Geralt's death in Fire Emblem, Three Houses. Story 45. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Phoebe's death, especially as Cassandra. The anguish in her voice gets me every time. Story 46. Spoiler alert. When Mario finds out that our princess is in another castle. Story 47. There is something deeply sad about the ending of Final Fantasy Tactics, but the infamous sequence in Final Fantasy VII is very emotional, especially because I was 9 to 10 years old when it was released. I did not know that could happen to a friend in a video game. Story 48. Some of the endings in Detroit Become Human are soul-destroying. Story 49. Ethan saves his child and dissolves. Kendo and his daughter. Joel and his daughter. Story 50. Top 3 because I cannot choose one. 1. The ending of Kingdom Hearts 3. 2. The ending of Persona 3 Reload. 3. The scene near the end of Persona 3 Reload, episode Aegis, where Yukari has an emotional breakdown. After everything that has happened to her, she needed it. Story 51. Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, the Warrior of Light fight. Halfway through, I'm fighting back tears, but the cutscene afterward made me a different person than I was before I watched it. Also, the airship fight in Heaven's Ward not only had me bawling as I watched, it continued to make me cry all the way into Endwalker. Story 52. Arthur Morgan's final ride in Red Dead Redemption 2. The game and the player know he is dying. The music swells. That's the way it is. And as you ride, the game plays back ghostly voiceovers of the kind and honorable choices you have made throughout his life. It is not a cutscene. You are actively playing through his beautiful, heartbreaking final moment of peace and reflection. No other game has made me feel the entire weight of a character's life like that. Story 53. The end of Halo Reach when Noble Six fights to the very end and dies alone in the wastelands of Reach. Story 54. When I die of dysentery or lose an ox crossing the river. Story 55. Spoilers for Expedition 33 below. But my God, the final scenes in the ending where you destroy the canvas are devastating. Verso, knowing that it is his end alongside the end of all his friends, is heartbreaking, especially with Minako. The music and the cinematics, the little boy being led away, and the family around the grave brought me to tears. Honestly, it is one of the best stories in a game I have ever played. The soundtrack and the design felt engrossing. The gameplay is phenomenal, too. But the world and the characters are what truly stand out. It is a gut punch of a finale in the best way. Story 56. The ending of Red Dead Redemption, Arthur's final moments, still gives me chills. Story 57. Press the F key to pay respects. I felt so much emotion that I cried for 3 days. Story 58. There are probably sadder ones out there, but Crisis Core. Final Fantasy VII really broke me in 7th grade, laughing out loud. Story 59. Sam becomes infected, and Henry is forced to kill his younger brother before killing himself in The Last of Us. Story 60. Clementine in The Walking Dead. Master Chief watching his robot girlfriend die. Expedition 33. The Gomage. The Last of Us with Joel and his daughter. I have played Cyberpunk 2077 4 times and cried each time. I refuse to play it again because I cannot watch Jackie die again. Story 61. Cyberpunk 2077 spoiler. Jackie's death in the car outside the No-Tell Motel. Story 62. Me as Lee, dying at the end of The Walking Dead Season 1. Giving the gun to Clementine, knowing where I am leaving her all by herself with her zombie parents right outside. Oh my God. I am tearing up just thinking about it. Story 63. Majora's Mask. Ikana Valley. The Music House. I sob every time like a baby. Story 64. Send Me Out with a Bang. Johnson was the best character in the trilogy, and his death was unexpected. Another notable character was Jorge. He died believing he had saved the planet, but it was for nothing. Story 65. Life is Strange spoiler. Seeing Max cry in the bathroom while hearing Chloe being shot after everything she went through to save her. knowing that all the great moments they shared never happened, and watching Chloe die without learning what happened to Rachel, thinking no one cared about her. Story 66. The ending of A Plague Tale Requiem broke me. After all those hours with Hugo across 2 games, becoming attached to him and then having to end his life was devastating. Story 67. Cyberpunk 2077. Phantom Liberty. Song Somi is begging you to help her die so she will not live as a tortured lab rat of President Myers. Story 68. Cyberpunk ending. If you choose to end V's life, the messages you received from everyone were brutal and made my body ache with grief because it felt too real. Both this and the devil ending made me weep in different ways. People thought I was crazy for falling in love with the game and said it was only because I got lucky and did not encounter any insane, game-breaking bugs in those first few months. That is true to an extent, but after almost 1,000 hours, I think it is one of my all-time favorites. Story 69. A few scenes come to mind. Sora losing Kairi again at the end of the first Kingdom Hearts game. Melia being forced to kill her brother shortly after her people are effectively wiped out in Xenoblade Chronicles. Learning Mama's backstory in Death Stranding. Watching Jade die during childbirth in Warframe. Story 70. Aside from popular answers, here is one I have not seen. Final Fantasy VII Remake. After the Sector 7 plate collapses and Barrett pounds on the rubble, screaming for his dead friends, the moment is harrowing. I am a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII and know all the backstory for Avalanche that they have filled out since the remake. Having Biggs and Jesse dead and losing Seventh Heaven is devastating for Barrett and Tifa. The scene is perfectly tragic. Barrett screaming their names, Tifa unable to do anything but stand by and sob, and the music really drives home how much they have lost, their friends and their home. This is the home Tifa literally fought tooth and nail for after she had already lost everything, and the home and people who took Barrett and Marlene off the streets when they were at their lowest. It is sad and tragic. Story 71. I found the scenes in The Witcher 3 with the Bloody Baron's undead aborted baby horribly poignant. Story 72. Tiny Tina's assault on Dragon Keep. The ending. This is the only time I've ugly cried over a video game. Story 73. Rhyme tore me apart more than any piece of media I have ever consumed, and there is not a word spoken in it. Story 74. For me, it is the art of seeing quests in Ghost of Tsushima. For anyone with Alzheimer's or dementia in the family, it hits pretty close to home. Story 75. Claire and Professor Layton's last goodbye in Professor Layton and the unwound future still feels tragic no matter how many times I have played the game. Story 76. I have one that I might be alone on. The ending of Telltale Games' The Walking Dead Episode 2. Obviously Episode 1's ending is a heartbreaker, but nothing has affected me like Episode 2. I went all in on supporting Kenny. Then we get to Wellington. They turn Kenny and Clementine away, and Kenny is begging them to take Clementine and Alvin Jr. His telling Clementine that when he walked away he would not look back. Not because he did not want to, but because he would not be able to leave, destroyed me. I was open-mouthed sobbing, snot down to my chin. I could not even read the screen anymore. I lay on the couch the rest of the day with my back to the television. I just listened to the menu music until the PlayStation turned itself off. I cannot explain why it hit me so hard. It struck something deep and primal. I do not know whether it was because we lost our last tether to Lee, or because I had bet everything on Kenny and somehow won by losing. I do not know. Of all the tears I have shed for video games, this is the only one that utterly ruined me for a day. Story 77. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The ending of Chapter 5. Pick it up. You're an off-seer, so send her. Story 78. When you spend hours building a house in Minecraft, only to have it destroyed by creepers. Story 79. This is very recent, but the ending scene for Jedi Survivor. Story 80. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. The last words of Edward Blackbeard Thatch. Kenway. In a world without gold, we might have been heroes. Story 81. You're my brother. Makes me tear up just thinking about it. Story 82. Fable 2. When you meet your deceased sibling in the dream world. Story 83. At the end of the Walking Dead series, when Clementine meets Lee again on the train and they have one final conversation, I was in tears. Story 84. Not the saddest scene per se, but the game ending that affected me the most was the end of Journey. I went in blind. I spent time with a random player in that beautiful game. We looked out for each other and had fun communicating with simple signals. We shared an incredible journey. In the end, you die alone, as we all do. I cried. Story 85. For me, the first game I played was Spider-Man 2018 Remastered. When Aunt May is on her deathbed and tells Peter she knows he is Spider-Man. Story 86. The death of Aerith in Final Fantasy VII. Aerith was kind, gentle, and selfless, always ready to sacrifice herself for others. I was utterly shocked. What made it even sadder was that it was unexpected. In 1999, the chance of a spoiler or leak was still incredibly small. And then there was the music. Note: not the game's ending, but the end of Disc 1. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.